Action the storm.
Great opportunity for us to get together, and the fans are loving the stuff that you guys are putting out about St. John's, about New York, but great opportunity to get to know you guys a little bit more in terms of the basketball backstories, the origin stories, and it's so interesting. And for those that don't know the dynamics of New York City basketball DNA, the difference in the boroughs, you guys have kind of lived it all in different boroughs. So, Nell, starting with you, basketball journey influences.
He's starting because he's older?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, all right.
Exactly.
Just checking.
Exactly. You don't like my linear flow?
No, it's fine. That's my big brother. I got a quick
that.
story about Nell though. How he became my big brother. 17, I just got to St. John's. Nell picked me up to go get some food. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm gonna say it.
Curve it.
All right, forget it. Go ahead. You can go ahead with the conversation. This was a life-changing experience with Nell the first time he took me out.
So we're just gonna tease it and kind of leave it as a
Yeah,
cliffhanger?
because relationships and all of that other stuff. But it's old though.
The
boy.
year was 1998.
No, it wasn't.
97?
No, son.
96?
It's 96.
96. Yeah, that's a long time ago, man.
Yeah. So so I could bring it up, right? You ain't gonna get no charges. You gonna get in trouble for something that happened in 96? Your shorty wasn't even with you in 96.
Yes, she was, man. I got
for
a
real?
33-year-old.
Oh, that's a fact. Damn, son. I can only talk about
our
me
limited
and Twin.
audience. Do we want this story or not? What do we think?
Yo, so look, so Nell come get me, right? I just finished working out at St. John's. You know, the young boys. So I'm new on campus. I don't really know nobody. I'm out of Brooklyn. I'm cussing and shit. I probably smell like weed. Nell picks me up from our apartments because we had apartments. We didn't have dorms. We had like these fly ass apartments with underground parking. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to Brooklyn. So Nell was like, all right, come with me to Brooklyn. I mean, no, he said, I'm gonna take you back to Brooklyn, right? So we go to Brooklyn, right?
We went to a party?
No, we went to Brooklyn to go get some food. Downtown Brooklyn. It's crazy. It's close to where I live at now. On Bergen Street. Nell had the was it the Navigator when it first came out? Whatever you had that was new, it first came out. Nell left me in the car, went to go ring the bell of probably one of the most beautiful women I ever seen at 17. She was so beautiful that I ended up marrying a woman 15 years later that looked like her. Am I lying? Am I lying, son? Am I lying? This was the wildest, one of the wildest experiences I ever had in my life. But this is the first time I met Nell. No, not that I met her. This is the first time Nell took me somewhere.
Of all the stories that you could have told, I was
Because
not
it
expecting
was life changing, right? It was life changing. Just the experience with the big homie here in the NBA. I'm still trying to figure out if I really like basketball. And he puts me in a brand new truck, and we go, and he rings a bell on Bergen Street, and I think a court. It was amazing. So I just want to share the story because that's my big brother.
It's a
He may get in trouble, but he'll get over it. She'll get over it.
It's a different level bond. You're growing up mid '80s. You're in Harlem.
Yes.
What is the basketball vibe?
Yes.
And what is inspiring you as a young basketball player on the way up?
So, people don't know my story personally, but, growing up in Harlem, I was able to see everything. I was told about the prior legends. They were like present legends at the same time, and it was like basketball was everywhere. I was a little kid watching Walter Berry, Ed Pinkney, Richie Adams,
That's
Deano, Steve Burt, all these great players just like performing in my neighborhood. So at like 10 years old, 9 years old, like I'm mesmerized by everything. Pearl Washington. So I got to see all these guys in my neighborhood, and it has just inspired me to want to just play all the time and be better. So I was really lucky, and there was no internet that you could watch people. You had to go to the games. So I'm that little 9-year-old, little 10-year-old sitting courtside with his high-colored socks, and I'm looking and I'm just inspired, and I wanted to be in that place,
You was inspired. You was inspired at 10.
I was inspired at 10 years old to play basketball. Like that's what I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. And New York, Harlem is like it's just courts everywhere. So you just team up and you go around. I had a community center right in my neighborhood where I was able to like work on my game and just play all the time. And it was a beautiful time for basketball, you know. So I got to see everybody, you know, and I was inspired by a lot of players and a lot of guys I got to see later on. I got to speak to them and tell them, and it's just so much respect. Even as an older guy, when you see the old legends, like it's so much respect between us. It's just unbelievable.
So the Big East is being born literally then.
Yes.
The Knicks have Michael Ray Richardson.
Sugar.
Sugar Ray.
Sugar.
One of my favorite docs
Yeah.
that only aired like twice. Whatever Happened to Michael Ray, narrated by Chris Rock.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
If you're out there, search that on YouTube if you've never seen it. It's so good. Do you have an early memory of going to MSG for the first time?
I was young. I was maybe 13, but I was way up in the nosebleeds. I think my community said they gave us tickets, and I think we probably went to see like Indiana Pacers. It was lackluster, but I just remember just like being at my first professional game, and then all of a sudden, you know, you make what's his name, Bernard King comes to the Knicks, and then like everything changes. The mode of, you know, youth basketball, you could see like everybody wanted to be Bernard King, and it was just so when the Knicks became like relevant because they you know they won a championship in the early '70s, but they had a long period of just being bad. You know, of course, Michael Ray Richardson in the early '80s, then Bernard King comes, everything is different. You know, and that's like 82, 83.
Yeah, he gets there in 82,
84.
and I want to talk about how the Knicks impact New York City basketball culture a little later. But for you, the Big East forms, and then St. John's starts to take the leap. And in '85, you're 14 years old, and you've got Walter Berry, Mark Jackson,
The truth.
Chris Mullin, Bill Wennington, and that crew going to the Final Four. Like, how does that impact you? And is that the thing that made you want to go to St. John's?
Well, yes, that 84, 85 season was the thing. It didn't make me want to go to St. John's, but that was the thing that brung me in when I started just wanting to watch college basketball all the time. And, of course, like Georgetown with Patrick Ewing. The year before Georgetown was in the championship, they had a guy on their team named Michael Graham. He was dunking everything he touched. You got to go look at that. Michael Graham.
He was a beast?
He was.
You
you'll
talking
see.
to me? That's before my time,
No.
so I don't know who the fuck you
You
talking
know,
about.
this is 84, ball headed. You know, they feeding the ball. He dunking everything, mean look. And Georgetown was like this monster. So St. John's, I find out it's a New York team. Everybody started talking about New York, and it was just like. But once again, I was, you know, captivated. You know, all I wanted to do. So I basically followed St. John's all through that year. Mark Jackson was. I don't know. I think he was coming off the bench that season.
He was like 6
So
man,
he wasn't. We knew about him, but Mike Moses was the point guard. Of course, Chris Mullin, Bill Wennington, and Walter Berry, who I had seen in person like a couple of years before. So now here he is at St. John's. All the eyes is on him, and that whole run. They beat Georgetown one time that year, then lost to them like basically 3 more times, but it didn't matter because every time they played against them, like we were glued to the TV, and it made you just want to go outside, play, get better, and go outside, play, and get better. And it was just like every day. Like I can't even remember like at that age not playing basketball. You know, I was just, you know, that's all I wanted to do. But I had so much. I had Bernard King with the Knicks. I had St. John's, rising, possibly ready to win a national championship, and it was like the best time. Like, you know, I still feel like the same way about that time. You know,
It's crazy. 3 teams in the Big East in the Final Four in the same year. Nova,
That was
Georgetown, and
That was
St.
good
John's.
times.
What do you have early college basketball
Absolutely
memories?
not.
No,
Absolutely
nothing.
not.
Nothing. So when do you become aware of Big East college hoops growing up in Brooklyn?
First of all, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to be too far from Brooklyn. That's why I ended up at St. John's.
that means going to Queens. He didn't probably even want to.
You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know. I didn't get that experience like now. Like I'm from a whole different community. You know what I'm saying? My Caribbean community, we didn't really care for all that. You know what I'm saying? I was into dance halls, going to dance halls, selling weed, and going to block parties. Like that was my thing. You know what I'm saying? I just happened to fall in love with American football. So that was my sport growing up.
What position?
I was a quarterback. That's why I used to give Nell so many great passes. I see the fucking court, right? But the Big East thing didn't start until I was about 17 years old playing AAU for Riverside Church. So I don't have that basketball story to share with you. Mm-hmm. I was into everything except for basketball. But once I grew 5 inches between 14 and 15, basketball obviously was my next thing. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm the basketball story that I wanted to be better than people like Shawnelle Scott, who was in a newspaper, and my coach was forcing me to pay attention to the game, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? You playing against Shawnelle Scott next game? And I'm like, all right, I gotta bust his ass. He's like, yeah, you gotta bust his ass. That's my basketball story. I didn't know about none of this ranking stuff. I didn't know about traveling and all that. But I was fortunate enough to have an asshole high school coach who used to bang my door at 6 o'clock in the morning that forced me to play AAU basketball.
I also had a asshole basketball coach too, so we had that in common.
Yeah,
you know, growing up.
You know, but I didn't know. Like Nell knew
between.
Walter Berry.
Yeah.
Right. I could tell you about my brother and all the neighborhood drug dealers. Me and my twin Carriage used to go look up to. You know what I mean? I could tell you where the best dice games was in New York at 13, 14. I couldn't tell you where the playing in Rucker and all that. So when I played, and it's funny, somebody just posted this on Instagram. Like my senior class, they ranked me top 10, so I was number 10, right? And somebody wrote, it's funny that Ty made the top 10 and he never knew who was the other 9 players in this thing, right? Because I was playing. That's how disconnected I was with basketball. But I liked what basketball could afford me. So, again, it always seems like I was in the right place at the right time. So when I was introduced to basketball, so I didn't play high school basketball for 2 years. I didn't go to school my freshman and sophomore years. You know, I went to school, but I went to school to sell weed, right? That was my thing, right?
It was an entrepreneurial education.
Yeah. Where I'm at now, I was always an entrepreneur, right? I was always an entrepreneur. But what happened was that once I got introduced to the game and I saw what it could do for me, I went into it for the wrong reason. So look, let's see how crazy it is. So I get introduced to basketball on a Monday, and my high school coach told me what's required, which was I need to go to school every day. I need to practice. So that's on a Monday. I'm looking around like, why is this black dude cussing me out and shit? On Wednesday, I meet Arnie Hirsch, R.I.P.
Arnie Hirsch.
Yeah, Hershkowitz, R.I.P., who was the plug, who was giving out bags. He was the only person giving out, he was one of the only one giving out bag. Then I met Rob Johnson on Thursday.
Rob Johnson.
From out here. So I met Rob Johnson, the original handler in New York City, right? On Thursday. On Friday, you know who I meet? Who they introduced me to? Lloyd Sweet P. Daniels.
Oh, man.
This is my introduction to. This is 3 days in a row, right? And I shared this with you, my Lloyd Daniels story. So I meet Lloyd Daniels. He calls my mom's. He had a phone in his car, the big phone in his car. He calls my mom's, and Lloyd could talk shit to anybody. He said, "Your son is gonna be with me for the whole night. I mean, for tonight." And Arnie Hirsch dropped me off with Lloyd Daniels in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, 94th and Clarkson. It was 95th and Clarkson. Lloyd picked me up. Lloyd took me, like he busted my cherry the first time I met him. Lloyd took me to Cheetah's Club.
So took you everywhere.
I met the Kembe Mutombo and 2 big titty white ladies.
Yo, how old were you though?
I was 16 years old, boy.
Oh my
Rest in
God.
peace.
This is
Rest in
a
peace to Deke.
Rest in peace to the Kembe Mutombo. Lloyd ordered me. I'm sorry, it didn't even start off like that. Now I'm gonna blow you old heads' minds, right? All you old heads. Lloyd took me to the East Side. Under the QB Bridge, what's that strip club name? World famous.
Not Goldfingers.
No, it was before it was named Goldfingers. Damn.
I know you're talking about not
the original New York City strip club.
on First Avenue.
Yes,
Yeah.
right under the
Yeah,
QB
they
Bridge,
were
right
there
over
for
the
a long
bridge.
time. Yeah,
Right.
they were there for-
Scores?
Scores. Shit.
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm
Good
talking
guess.
about.
And how old?
Good guess.
Huh? 16. Lloyd Daniels and his white BM. I never forget the story because this is a life changing experience. Lloyd Daniels parked right in front of Cheetahs. Scores. Got me out the car again. I'm a young boy from Brooklyn. I don't know what's going on. We get out the car. We sit down. The owner comes over to us. We sit down. He orders me chicken wings. Who brings the chicken wings? This is the first time I've ever witnessed big breasts. Women in bathing suits, and they sat down. I remember the conversation because I thought I was hot in my neighborhood growing up because I was spoiled. You know what I'm saying? I had gear. I was spoiled. I had little jewelry. I was popping in the 90s, boy.
Listen, I
was popping. So they brought me
you wild, man.
a Sprite with ice and chicken wings. And Lloyd told them, go take care of my young boy.
They said strip clubs got the best chicken wings.
Best chicken wings that I can remember at that age, son. Best chicken wings. After that, Lloyd was speaking to the owner. Lloyd had to do something with the owner. I don't know what he had to do. Lloyd took me to the Cheetah Club, the Kembe Mutombo. That's the first time I met RP, the Kembe Mutombo. And I remember he was in between two big titty white women and was hugging them. And he ordered me a water on the rock. He said, "Yo, get him a water on the rocks." I ain't know what was the rocks. That's how far I was from reality, right? But I'm saying the story because this was my introduction to basketball. And that night, Lloyd took me to 117th Street in Madison. What's it named? Madison? In Madison, parked in front of a house and told me, "Wait for him right here," right? And I'm tired now. It's like 11:30, 12. It's a school night. No, it wasn't a school. It was a weekend, but I was tired. Lloyd had me in the car. As we were leaving Cheetah, which was on 21st and going up to Harlem, he explained to me what basketball was. And in his words, it was you play hard, you get all the money in the world, you get all the women in the world, and you take care of your family. That was how I learned what basketball was. That was my introduction. So I don't got a love story like everybody else, but I'm happy about my story because I know how to inspire these ignorant young people today.
Nah, man. But
You are listening to the most unique basketball backstory in the history of basketball backstory.
No, but here's the thing though, E.
And this is just the first week.
Right. Here's the thing, E. The people in my community to this day cannot believe the transition I made into being a civilian who pays taxes and who plays sports, baby. That's how reckless I was growing up.
A positive member of society.
A positive member. Pay hella taxes, man. Trump, help me out, baby. Help me out, baby. But I'm saying that to say that's my basketball story. So I don't have a love story. I fell in love, I don't know nothing about none of that.
What I want to say is that is what makes the contrast between you two so great as we're continuing to do this.
Right.
Because you come
Thank you.
from different places and you look at the game and your journeys are completely different experiences, right? So
He's more empathetic than me, though. Like, he's super empathetic. Like,
he absolutely
sometimes I
is.
got to say, I don't give a fuck about none of that now. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, that's what makes this so great. So Gauchos, Riverside.
A church, baby.
Gauchos and Riverside.
And so not that we're having some trash talking Gauchos Riverside moment, but what are the cultures of both programs as you're coming up through them, and how does that impact where you guys eventually go from playing there?
Well, I could start off and say, like, being around and being that young kid who loves basketball, like, I knew at a young age, like, there were two programs. There was Gauchos and there was Riverside. And pretty much during that time, like, anybody in New York City coming up through the ranks played with one of those teams. So I started off in the Gauchos at 11 years old. And, I mean, basically from that point on, it was just like, well, my basketball career was just going up. Gauchos was a great program. It started off in Harlem, and then they built their own gym in '86 in the Bronx.
Didn't know that.
And it was just the roughest of roughest. And he took the roughest of roughest. And he's talking about Lloyd Daniels. So I first met Lloyd Daniels when I was like maybe 12 years old, when Arnie Hirsch, brought Lloyd Daniels to the Gauchos for the first time, and I was there at the gym. And I just remember seeing this skinny, lanky kid, and he like winked at me. So I don't know, it was something about him, and then when I saw him play, it was just like, I couldn't believe it. But that's the type of things I was seeing at the Gauchos. It was, Rod Strickland, Chris Brooks. You had all these great players that played there, and I was right there. I was a little kid playing in the same organization. And plus, just even in my age group, like I said, the best of the best of the Bronx, the best of Manhattan, they were ascended upon the Gauchos. So I was playing with all these great players at a young age. And one of the players that, playing with, and one of the players I was playing against was a guy named Adrian Red Autry. I met him when I was 12. I played with the Gauchos. He played with another team called TS Bucks at the time. And we gravitated toward each other. We used to meet. He grew up about 4 or 5 blocks from me. We played on separate teams, but we always used to play in the neighborhood. And I noticed something about him. He always played with the older guys. So even at that age, I was playing with the Gauchos. I'm playing 13U. I'm 11. I played 13U at 12. And from that point, when I turned 13, I played with my age group, but I started playing with the older guys. So I started playing with the 18-year-olds. I used to go hang out with Red. We go to the community set. We playing with the 18-year-olds. And yeah, they was roughing me up. They was, I couldn't call no fouls.
They was beating your big ass up.
Kicking me out of bounds, taking my jacket, stuff like that. Just like, that's where like the toughness came in from that point. But the Gauchos were a great program, early program, great youth basketball coach. Coach Dave McCollum,
shout out
Coach
to Dave.
Dave Jones, Lou Dalmeda was the owner, the head guy. But Dave McCollum and Dave Jones were two of the best coaches that this city has ever seen. And you could ask many players. Like, many of us came under Dave Jones and Dave McCollum. So I was very fortunate. So from like 11 to 14, I think, 11 to 14, 11 to 15, I was playing with the Gauchos. And then I transitioned to Riverside because it was just, Gauchos was like the rough and rugged crew, and Riverside was like the preppy, do everything right by the book.
Let's talk about that NIL you was getting though. Let's talk about that though.
What you mean, like
you was getting that paper? Stop acting like you just left team.
He was a pioneer.
Well,
yeah, he was one of them. Well, he was getting bread. Stop
listen,
acting like
man. Everybody know, man. People getting these kids getting these NIL deals, but Gauchos and Riverside, they took care of their players. Like a lot of the top players, like. We didn't.
What you was getting though? Let me know what you was getting.
Getting a couple of $100.
What's a couple? A month. You was getting like 400 a month.
200-300 a month.
Damn, you was on welfare, boy.
You're eating good.
In the 1980, what? This like 84.
You was on welfare, boy.
87. That was big time. Nah. We get a couple of dollars every so often, and that was sneakers. You didn't have to worry about nothing.
That's a fact.
Unlimited gear. My mother never had to pay for sneakers once I got to the Gauchos. Single family home. We couldn't afford much, but we had like playing in that time. Like we got everything. So the Gauchos of Riverside was a monument. It's so many other teams now are saturated, but they were like the monument. They was like the who's who. And if you was somebody you wanted to make it, you would play with one of those teams.
Yeah, David Kane painted a great picture of what that was like on his interview with us.
And remember, I brought him to the Gauchos, right?
And there are so many incredible New York City basketball stories that have yet to be told. I remember it was years ago when I was really starting to focus on documentaries. I went up there and I sat with Bingo. Single cam. Bingo. Just wanted to have a conversation with him and maybe see where it went.
He's seen it all, too.
And he showed me some archival. And one of the archival tapes, it was either CBS Sunday Morning or another newsy type of show. They did a special on the opening of the gym.
Yep, I was there.
So how big of a deal was that?
It was
not just for New York City basketball, but for where it was and the fact that it's in the South Bronx, it's not far from Yankee Stadium, and it gave so many kids that home base.
So prior to that, we was in a high school called 197. It was on 135th and Fifth Avenue.
This is so dope. I never knew this.
Little small elementary school. And then there was rumblings that, Lou was building a gym, a Gaucho gym. So in my head, I'm like, what kind of gym could he be building? I couldn't. And then the time was coming, the noise got there. Then they had the date to see the new gym. None of us knew nothing, right? So you got greats from the young kids. I don't even know anybody that played with the Gauchos that was a little younger than me. They were there. I was probably like 13 or 14 at the time, and then you had all the older guys like the Chris Brooks and the older guys. Everybody. So we had a banquet, and then it's like, let's go to the gym. So it's like the whole program. Let's go to the gym.
And no one had seen it yet.
No, mostly nobody said, man. We get to the corner, and we coming down that street, and we saw that big Gauchos, and we got in the gym, and everybody was like, "God!" Everybody was
Crazy.
all over the place,
Madness,
looking at each other. Like, it was just like, we got something here, like, you know, and it was like the best feeling in the world. We had this like, almost like a arena to us, like, you know. And when I say we was there every day, we was there every day. I get out of school, I'm going to the Gaucho gym. The wind blow funny, I'm going to the Gaucho gym. It rains, I'm going to the Gaucho gym. It's sunny, I'm going to the Gaucho gym. And it was just like the best thing in the world, you know. And I think I was there for like one more year after that, but it was just like the best thing in the world. And you know, I wasn't even thinking about Riverside at the time, and things, you know, different things happened, you know, and I could talk about that later. But it was just like the best feeling in the world. So here you got this big gym, and now you got all these inspired young kids, and then you talk about just year after year Division.
But why you left? Why you left? Why you went to the Riverside? Was it that money?
No, because well, Riverside is right. I lived on 119th and 7th, and Riverside is like right up the park,
right there, yeah.
So the Gauchos were great. Get on a train, go to the Bronx, but now Riverside is right up the hill. But my good friend Adrian Autry, he was like, look, man, because Gauchos has so many. So think about it, they got the new gym that everybody wants to be a Gaucho now. So like, I think Kenny Anderson was with Riverside. He went over to the Gauchos. Conrad McCray was with Riverside. He went over to the Gauchos.
R.I.P.
So I saw an opportunity to play. So we was all we in red. We was 15. We played 17 and under. So we played up. So he was like, "Yo, come here. You'll play all the time." I think we did one summer like 15 and under, but it was like play with my guy Adrian Autry, Brian Reese, play a lot, get exposure, and plus, you know, of course, there's a bag involved because that was part. So all the elite players, they got some type of compensation.
They we were compensated.
And here it is. I'm 15. I'm 6'10" at this point. I grew to 6'10".
At 15.
At 15.
Damn, now.
6'10". I play at 15 under 6'9", 6'10". So
how many dunks you get in the game?
Well, I wasn't really dunking at that phase.
That's out of line. That's out of line.
I was 15. I didn't know what that was about.
You 15 and you 6'9" and can't dunk. That's out of line.
I went through a growth spurt. So I was getting used to I was good. I was good, but I started growing like nobody knew.
You was uncoordinated.
So you had to get used to.
Yeah. So here it is. Like I'm 14. I'm like. I think I was at 12. I was.
You had a girlfriend? You had a girl?
No girlfriend at the time.
You was all basketball.
All basketball.
You was a virgin?
Yes, at that point.
Man, that's crazy.
But
that's crazy.
Great follow up.
That changed in about a year or two, and we're not.
Another episode.
So, at this time, I got going through a growth spurt. I switch over from Gauchos to Riverside, and I'm playing all the time. I'm playing all the time. I'm playing with my boy.
That's a pause. You got to press that pause.
I'm playing basketball.
That's crazy, son.
Yeah, I'm playing.
Twin. I would never say I was playing with my boy.
I'm playing real basketball.
That's crazy.
That's why we edit.
Okay.
I'm playing real basketball.
No, don't even edit that. That's who he is.
I'm playing real basketball, quality basketball with my homie, my boy, and my other boys. And it was just the best of times. And so
all y'all boys was playing together?
Nah, man, we was playing basketball.
All right,
man.
just making sure.
So I'm growing into my body. Now I'm on Riverside, and things are starting to change. Now I'm starting to get really, really good now, you know. You know, what can I say? Riverside took care of us, you know, and it was like one of the best, you know, experiences that I could ever have, you know, so.
How do you find Riverside? Like, how do you get connected?
So when I after
Kenny Pretlow.
Nah. You gotta understand what's going on in my life. I was making money. I was for a young guy. I was making like $900 a week selling bud. So when I got introduced to basketball, there was like Grady High School had a bunch of Division I players. I didn't know they were like. I didn't know the difference between Division I players and BMCC. Like I didn't know shit. Norman Richardson, who ended up being an NBA basketball player as well as an NBA assistant coach, was my friend because he was in one of my classes. And he used to tell people that I can play because we used to play in the gym during, school, right? And Norman was like, yo, Ty, you need to come to Riverside and they go take care of you. So I'm like, what do you mean they gonna take care of me? And he was like, yo, they give out money if you play basketball and they give you free sneakers. So I'm like, word? Norman Richardson told me to come to Harlem to try out for the church.
First time you been to Harlem?
No,
Okay.
definitely had a good customer in Harlem.
Okay.
I was in Harlem, son.
Okay. Drop offs?
Yeah. Y'all flying shit. Y'all want fast money and shit. So we used to deal with y'all fiends. But it was a Saturday morning, and if you play for Riverside, so they used to have that early morning practice before the tournament.
Yeah.
Right? And Norman Richardson was telling me on Friday, yo, you got to come up there. No, people, they don't really know who you are. You got to come up there so you could get recruited and all that. Again, I was flushed with all this information. I didn't really know what it meant. But my high school coach, Derek McMahon, came to my house 6 o'clock in the morning, made sure I was up, and forced me to go up to Riverside Church. Now, think about it. I'm from a whole Bayesian, Jamaican, Trinidadian community. And you're telling me to go to some Catholic church with a weirdo white dude into his office to talk about basketball and practice and make a team? Like, that was very awkward for me, right? But just like he can mention Dave Jones, there was a guy named Derman Player.
Yes.
And we played shirt versus skin, pickup game. After the second game, he pulled me off the court and he said, yo, we need to speak to your moms. We need to put you on this travel team. That's my introduction. So, like, see these guys, Shawnelle, 40, all these Ruben, all these guys got these romantic basketball stories. My story, which I love my story, I don't give a fuck if y'all love it or not, was very, very weird because I deal with these young basketball players now and they like love basketball and all this stuff. And then somebody like me came out of nowhere and took everybody's spot.
Hold on. Shout out
That's
to
like
Thurm.
really, really did it for me.
Shout out to Thurm. Thurm was coaching since he was like 14 years old.
Durham was,
He coached many
I think he coached everybody.
many Division I basketball players and NBA basketball players and professional basketball players.
And he still is. He still is.
Yeah, he's one of them young people who knew what they were doing. So he got snapped up by somebody that's an integral part of the New York City basketball world. Like, everybody knows Derman Player.
Yeah, Durham.
And he coached at St. John's, by the way.
And
too.
he coached me at St. John's. So Durham Player. Then I met obviously Ernie Lorch, and I was introduced to Riverside Church basketball. And the first tournament I played in was up there, right outside of the city, that little gym. And guess who we played against? The Gauchos. So I literally, over a span of 3 weeks, got introduced between the Riverside Gauchos rivalry, right? And again, as a competitor for the wrong reasons, but now into sports, I was fascinated by everything. I'm talking about even the fans. Like, we 15, 16 years old and people running us down for autographs.
And
That's dope.
E, by the way, too, AAU before, right? It used to be like regional. So Gauchos would have to play Riverside in each
Everything.
and every age
Everything.
group to go to a certain tournament.
Right.
And it would be like sometimes
you're-
Gauchos
you're-
win.
So you're fighting to get out of the
So we
region
fighting to
all
get
the
out the
time.
region.
But it was such great competition
Yeah.
that it pushed us to another level,
Yep.
right? Because it's 12 players on my team. It's like 200 players in the city, right? And for us to compete for those 12 spots was something else. Again, in retrospect, it probably was one of the most competitive times in my life. But I'm happy that I was introduced to basketball in that way because it prepared me for everything going forward. But again, these romantic ass basketball stories, I like to listen to this
come on,
shit.
man.
I like to listen to y'all talk y'all little stories and
Listen.
cute shit. But you ain't had no
It was a
girls though.
wonderful-
You ain't had no
Whoa.
groupies. You ain't had none of
Whoa.
that.
It was a
You had to
wonderful
wait
life.
till you was older, boy.
A little bit, you know.
You was out of line.
And on top of that, I went to an all boys high school. Pause.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarity.
Okay.
It was a great score.
Final thought. I would be remiss not to get one thought from each of you. Knicks are in the playoffs. Obviously, we don't want to date this, but how special is it for New York City basketball when the Knicks have the city on fire? How is that trickle-down effect to the rest of New York City basketball? One thought each.
Is a whole difference in the basketball community because everyone is proactively involved, even if they don't want to be, because Knicks fans force you to be basketball fans. And two, the money is flowing through the city. The money is flowing through the city for what? Because everyone is excited. Everyone wants to be part of the atmosphere. So shout out to the Knicks. You know, I'm looking forward to them to go as far as they can. But you ain't gonna see me with no Knick panties on talking about the Knicks go win, like my friend 40.
Oh my God.
Tremendous close to your point. Nell?
I'm loving it, of course. But I just want to say to the Knicks fans, I am with you. I've been a Knicks fan for decades, and I want to tell you, like, until we get our next championship, please chill. Just be cautiously optimistic. We love our team. We're relevant.
Son, this
but
guy always
we have not won a
paranoid.
championship in 50 years. It's been before hip hop started. We didn't get a championship. Hip hop has been here for 50 years, and we have not got a championship within that time frame. And I've been alive for that time. So I've been getting, and listen, I love
Shout out to the Liberty.
I love this team.
The champs.
Shout out to the
champ,
Liberty.
yeah. Shout out to the Liberty. Peace and shout out to the Liberty. But I just want all the Knicks fans to be just watch and enjoy and just be happy and don't get too far from yourself because, things happen.
They Knicks fans, son. It is.
Hopefully
what it
we'll
is.
be at the parade. Well, I'll be at the parade if that happens. If we get there. If we ever get there, I'll be at the parade. I'm going.
Shout out to you.
I hope you get there one day.
I know.
I
Me
hope you
too.
get there one day.
Me too.
So
This has been a special episode of The Storm at Sweet Chick. I thought I loved you guys a ton before this. That much more after this. This was dope.
Shout out to
Thanks.
E, man.
peace,
Shout out
man.
to E,
Peace,
man.
Peace, my man.
Speak
my
to
man.
you enough, motherfucker. On this show.
Cut.
41.